Break.
Every time I walk up here, Kevin's in the same position, so I hope you get a break between sessions because you're just there. Hey, one of the best backstage visits is Coach Drinkwitz. So he always brings a smile to my face. In his 6 seasons at Missouri, Eli's off to one of the most successful starts, winning 61% of his games while having earned the 2023 SEC Coach of the Year. His 46 wins at Mizzou eclipsed Dan Devine's school record for victories in a coach's first 6 seasons. And in just 6 years, Coach Drink has already tied for 4th on the win list in all-time program history. Drinkwitz is married to his wife, Lindsay. They have 4 daughters. And he did something that doesn't sound as much fun to me now as it used to. He just left a vacation, which included stops at the beach, so that's a good thing. Montana's a good thing. And Washington, D.C., where he and his family got tours of the White House and U.S. Capitol. I'm surprised I didn't bump into him during that visit. One cool note, his daughter Addison made the trip today to SEC Media Days, and she is shadowing Alyssa Lang here today. And lastly, I want to express my appreciation. Eli is a member of the NCAA Football Rules Committee, which you've got plenty to do as a head football coach in the Southeastern Conference, but he has embraced that role and that responsibility. Appreciate his communication with both myself and members of our staff around football rules issues, which need ongoing attention. Welcome to the stage, University of Missouri head football coach Eli Drinkwitz.
Well, that was a rousing, loud applause that I just received there, so really appreciate that. You know, it was great to be in Washington, D.C. You know, people asked me if I had ever seen a place more divided. I said, yes, SEC Media Days with all the fan bases. We all have our own factions right there that we support. So it's great to be in Tampa, excited for another 2026 college football season, my 7th at the University of Missouri. Somebody just asked me if I could talk to the 2020 version of myself, what would I say to myself? I'd say you made it to year 7, man. Keep on trucking. Pretty amazing thing to be able to be thankful for. I do want to start out by saying I want to thank Marcy Girton. Marcy Girton has been my football sport administrator for the last 3 years and has chosen to retire. And she will no longer be serving at the University of Missouri. And she's going to announce it tomorrow, so I wanted to beat her to the punch and pull a Pete Thamel on her and, announce it to the media. But Marcy has been a faithful servant to student-athletes. She does it for the right reason. She's left Mizzou in a better place than she found it. She served at multiple other SEC institutions, and everybody knows that she is a class act when it comes to student-athlete wellness, student-athlete performance, and having the best interest of student-athletes. And so I want to say I really appreciate her in her life's work and mission in education, and we're gonna miss her. And well done, Marcy. I'd also like to update y'all on Ahmad Hardy. I know that I've been asked a lot about Ahmad. And I did the very best that I could to save this update for the main stage. So what I want to tell y'all is this was a great opportunity for Ahmad to learn, and it was a great opportunity for our student athletes to learn. It was also a great reminder that there is no place for gun violence in this world, and that we need to do a better job of policing gun violence, not criticizing the police or the rights to bear arms, which is a Second Amendment right, but just saying that there is no place for gun violence, especially for our youth in society. Ahmad has been medically cleared from the bullet that struck him, and he is on the road to recovery. He did have the bullet did strike a bone in his body, and that has been fully healed and cleared. And today was his first day back towards a full recovery. We anticipate that he will make a recovery. What that recovery will look like after having a bullet, strike you is still to be determined. We do not know exactly what the return to play progression is because there's not a lot of literature and data on this, but we are utilizing our medical team along with our athletic performance team and nutrition to approach this at a very good pace. We do anticipate that this return to play protocol could take anywhere between 5 to 8 weeks, and at the end of the 8 weeks, we still don't know what his recovery will be from is he the same Ahmad Hardy that was last year. My anticipation and what I've seen, the way he's attacked his rehab, he's going to be a better Ahmad Hardy than when he was before. And I'm very proud of the way that he's approached his recovery. I'm not sure that his riding horses was part of the recovery protocol that his surgeon had in place. But hell, John Wayne rode after he'd been shot. He turned out all right. So Ahmad Hardy's trying the same approach. Now let's talk a little bit about Mizzou football. You know, our team is a combination of I didn't lose. I'm trying to read my own chicken scratch here that I wrote last night. It's not, the math ain't mathin' here. No, our football team is a combination of player development and talent acquisition. You know, we have 54 new players on our roster when you combine transfer portal and freshman additions. Combine that with 115 players on our roster, you got a roughly 50-50 match of new additions and current culture players, guys who understand and retain our culture. So we're having to do a really good job of combining that. And as a head coach, you got to do a great job of reteaching the foundation and framework and culture of your program while also embracing the individual identity of every new player on your team. And we're trying to do that. Our 3 players that we brought with us today are a great combination of that. You got Nick Rodriguez and Jamal Roberts, who have been with us since their high school commitments. Nick Rod, although he needs to button that top 2 shirt, he's got a little bit too much chest hair hanging out for me, but that's his style. You know, he's Argentina. I'm surprised he even showed up today with that loss they took in the FIFA World Cup, but he's managing to face that adversity. But Nick has been a really good player for us on the defensive side of the ball, and it's his opportunity to really step up. Jamal Roberts, who represents St. Louis and a guy who had plenty of opportunities to leave but chose to stay and cement his legacy as a Missouri Tiger, has been an incredible player for us and a great leader and somebody that represents our state and the city of St. Louis, a heartbeat of the University of Missouri, really well. And then you got Caden Green, a young man who transferred to us, has been a 3-year starter, as a guy who's one of the best offensive linemen in college football, and a guy who represents Kansas City, Missouri, which is also a heartbeat of the University of Missouri. So for those 3 guys to understand our culture and be able to implement that culture with the transfers that we got in, like Chris Graves Jr. or Austin Simmons or Caden Lee, it's been a really cool thing. You know, for us, we have the same mentality that we've always had. We want to have STP, something to prove mindset, and everybody at the University of Missouri has something to prove every day, something to prove that we belong in the SEC, something to prove that we can win at a high level, and something to prove that we want to do it this year. You know, we've always been a developmental program, meaning guys who have earned the opportunity to have their star shine. It's their turn. Guys like Jalen Marshall and Marquise Graciel, Santana Banner, Langdon Kitchen, Darius Smith, guys like Tristan Wilson, guys like Jamal Roberts, guys like Donovan Alubade and Sean Terry and Demarion Folks, and combine that with great transfers, guys like Luke Work, guys like Elijah Dotson, guys like Chris Graves Jr., guys like Zach Owens, guys like Zyshawn, guys like Caleb Goody. These are guys that get an opportunity to come in here and create new roles and new identities for themselves. On the offensive side of the ball, I want to say I'm extremely proud of Dominic Giudice, or Giudice. Dom has done an excellent job transitioning from guard to center and really establishing the mentality and work ethic of our offensive line, and therefore the identity and the work ethic of our team. Dom has done an excellent job of making sure that everybody is bought in, doing extra. One of our core values is doing more than what's expected, and Dom is doing that with the offensive line. You've got guys like Caden Green, Curtis Piegler, Tristan Wilson, Whit Hafer, who have been here, Jack Lang, who understand Logan Reichert, who understand what it looks like. And then you've brought along the new guys, the transfers, Zach Owens, Luke Work, Josh Atkins. I'm very excited to see the ownership and the opportunity that room has to continue to move our team forward. Our tight ends, led by Alex Atkins, a new coach that we hired, with Jordan Harris, Brett Norfleet, need to continue to find ways to impact the game, and I look forward to Alex with Coach Lindsey being able to do that. Our running backs, Jamal and Ahmad, I believe are the two best 1-2 punch in the country. I think those guys are as good as anybody. But I think we've also got incredible depth there. I think you're going to really be excited about Zyshawn, a transfer to us from Houston Baptist, Malai, who's a transfer from the University of Montana, and some freshmen that will be able to contribute. Our wide receivers, Caden Lee, Donovan Alubade, Caleb Goody, Demarion Folks, Nashawn, Sean Terry, and freshman, and Kendrick Lanier. I remember his name because it's not Kendrick Lamar, it's Kendrick Lanier. I think those guys will do a really good job of being a strength for Austin Simmons. Our quarterback room, Austin has been a tremendous addition to our football team. I love the way he's gone about his business, embracing his role as a leader of our team and a quarterback. I think his combination of Garrett Riley and Chip Lindsey are really going to be good. I also want to take a moment to mention Matt Zollers. Matt Zollers, the day and age in college football when it's easier to leave than stay, chose to stay. When it's easier to pout than to buck up, he's done that. He has bucked up, and he's been a tremendous leader for our football team. He has challenged Austin every single day to be at his best, and I look forward to the growth of Matt Zollers, and he is a quarterback that can play at a really high level, and I can't wait to continue to watch him grow and develop, and I look forward to that room. With Coach Lindsey's leadership and his direction, with Coach Riley's coaching, and the rest of that offensive staff, I'm excited about what the offense can do. Again, the identity hasn't changed. We're going to be a dominant downhill run, vertical pass, and focus on execution. Defensively, we've got to continue to stop the run. We've got to continue to confuse, harass, and hit the quarterback. But a key focus for us is we got to be better in takeaways. We have not forced the amount of takeaways that we need to be an elite level defense. And that starts with rushing the passer, getting strip sack fumbles. As much as we affected the quarterback through pass rush last year, we didn't have a single strip sack fumble recovery, and that's something that's got to change. I feel really good about the position that our edges are in with Darius Smith and Langdon Kitchen, Jaden Jones, Dayton Hopkins, and it's really going to be about who is that next guy who can step up, and we've got plenty of candidates between K3, Malik Bryant, Calvin Tooley, DeMarcus Johnson. There's plenty of guys in that room, and with Coach Early's coaching, I think we'll be just fine there. Defensive tackles, I've already mentioned Big Grizz, Marquise Graciel, Jalen Marshall, Jason Down, Dante Simpson, and plenty others that will be in that room. I think we will do, we've been really good at stopping the run. Chris McClellan, third-round draft pick with the Green Bay Packers last year. I think he had the most sacks of any defensive tackle in the SEC, and look forward to that tradition continuing. Linebackers, we added Robert Woodyard, who has a lot of SEC experience, to combine that with Nick, JB, Dante, and Brian Huff. I think that room's going to be deep. At safety, very excited about Santana Banner, a guy who played quite a bit for us last year, Elijah Dodson, Trajan Greco, Kinsley Falston, and many others who can play in that room, and I look forward to what that room's going to be. That room has got 3 freshmen that I think can really contribute at a high level for us, and look forward to Jaden McGregory being a guy that could play early. Cornerback was a position of need for us last year. We went out and got a guy that has a ton of experience with Chris Graves Jr., played more snaps than anybody at the corner position. We went and got Sione and Jaleel Florence from the University of Oregon, got Nick DeLoach coming back, Jackson Gates, and several others. Jackson Gates is another freshman that I think can play and play early. Special teams position, we added a new special teams coordinator with John Papuchis. JP will bring a very new style to our special teams, and look forward to him bringing him back. But more importantly, it was good to get Blake Craig back. Blake Craig is fully healthy and recovered from his ACL injury. Him with a combination of bringing in Bruno to handle the place kicking and the punter, not place kicking, kickoffs and punter, and Brett LeBlanc snapping. Special teams and the specialist position is in good hands. So that is about as thorough and detailed analysis as I got for us. And now I'll open it up for questions so that I can do what I do best and ad lib.
All right, thank you, Coach. If you've got a question, raise your hand. And we'll start back, Kalen. We'll start right back there, Pat.
Pat Forty from Sports Illustrated. Over to your right, Eli.
Pat. He's a Mizzou grad, just so we're on the same page. #1 journalism school in the country. Don't matter what Pete says.
You were an early adopter of advocating for a really large playoff. More people seem to have come around to your side in the last year or two. What's been the reaction you've gotten from your SEC peers about that?
You know, I was so appreciative of Commissioner Sankey's positive remarks about me in his opening statement. And I really don't want to say anything that's going to make you mad at me. But I'll say this. I was one of the first to come up with an idea, and somebody totally screwed it up. Because I am not for, I want to say this, I'm for expanded opportunities for schools in the playoffs. I just think when you have 130, I think it's 138 Division I playing schools, we have to have more opportunities and access to the playoffs. I am not for giving the committee more opportunities to put teams in the playoffs. As nice as I can be about it, committees are a bad idea in deciding on who should get in sports arenas. Sports are meant to be played and decided on the field. My idea last year, or suggestion last year, was about play-in opportunities, and I think each conference should have play-in games that create the opportunity to get into the playoffs. That's how I see it. I think it would create more excitement, avenues for your fans to be excited. I think if the top 8 teams in your conference had an opportunity to play in the playoffs, that gives you a measuring stick for each fan base that makes sense. I think this elimination of conference championship games, while I understand it as an opportunity to help you win the national championship, doesn't make sense because it puts too much emphasis on a singular outcome. And we can talk all we want about the process, but don't focus on the outcome. And then everything we're doing in college football is about the outcome, one single champion. And again, that doesn't make sense to me. So again, conference championships are important, need to be preserved. They're highly entertaining. They're highly valuable from a monetary standpoint. They're highly valuable from a fan engagement standpoint. So throwing those away so you can get a bad matchup between 24 and 18 doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But again, the only person that asked me my opinion was Pat Forty, and I don't know that anybody else cares.
Coach, we'll go over here to our left. Andrea.
Andrea Adelson with ESPN. People do care, Eli.
Thank you. Josh is giving me the easy, buddy.
You mentioned Ahmad's mindset and coming back from what happened to him. I'm over here.
There we go.
Hi.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Hey, front row.
Hi. Can you just talk a little bit more about the mindset, obviously, going through something as traumatic as he went through and surviving that to working as hard as he could to get back?
Yeah, I think there's just a youthfulness, feel of invincibility for all of these guys right now from 18 to 22. And, you know, they're empowered more now than they ever been before, whether that's financially or influence or and so I think for Ahmad, there was that moment there that he realized he was mortal and that there could be really bad outcomes if you don't make the right decisions consistently. And it was an unfortunate accident, an incident, and it wasn't something that he intentionally wanted or had any intention. And I think nobody did. When you just go to a concert, you don't anticipate to be a victim of random act of violence, especially gun violence. But I've been very, very proud of the way he's approached his recovery. He's approached his rehab. He's understood. He was in there Saturday morning. His son was with him. He had the nutritionist watching his son while he was getting his rehab work in. His growth and maturity of understanding that his number one responsibility is to be a father, and then after that it's to continue to be a great teammate and continue to do the things that he wants to do in order to achieve his dreams, I think has been exactly what coaching is all about and college football is all about. It's about taking young men on a journey from 18 to maturity, and it's a lifelong process. I'm a lot more mature now than I was when I first got here, And I think, for me, coaching is about and always will be about the student athletes. Regardless of how much the business changes or is disrupted, it's still about helping players achieve their dreams. That's why I got into coaching. That's why most of us got into this. And it's still an awesome thing to watch and something that puts you in awe. And when Ahmad scores his first touchdown this year, that's what I'll be thinking about, is that journey from hospital bed to end zone.
Coach, we'll stay on the center aisle about midway back. Tom?
Yeah, hey, Eli, Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Whole Hog Sports. Two-part question for you. One, you're the second longest tenured coach in the league right now. And I wonder if you embrace your role maybe as being a stronger voice, to follow Pat's question, in the sport. And part two, you lose the Arkansas end of the season rivalry and you gain Oklahoma there. Your thoughts about that?
I don't know that I embrace my role as a voice. I just think I embrace my role as having survived some wars. Wisdom is making mistakes and learning from it and still being able to talk about it. And I think I've made plenty of mistakes over the last 7 years, and whether it's been at media days or fumbles in the media, but I've learned enough to survive and keep on going. And I think, if I can help share that with people, I absolutely will. The Arkansas game moving was a surprise to me. I've always enjoyed that being a rivalry at the end of the year. But the thing about rivalries is it doesn't matter when you play them. They're still important. We're playing Kansas week 2. That's a pretty important rivalry. Didn't matter if we played them last week of the season or second week of the season. Arkansas this year, we're playing on the road on Halloween. It's going to be an important game for our season. I know it's going to be an important game for their season. And then, we get Oklahoma at the end of the year. But hell, if the playoffs expand, at the end of the season, you might be resting players. So I don't know, when the games are played might not matter as much if you expand to a 64-team tournament like the FIFA World Cup is. So I don't worry about all that. I know each and every game in the SEC is extremely difficult. It doesn't matter when you play them, where you play them matters, because it's really hard to win at night. It's really hard to win on the road, and it's really hard to win in front of 80,000 screaming fans.
Hey, we're going to go back in the middle aisle again on the right-hand side.
Hey, Coach Whitman Clark, Tide 100.9. Austin Simmons' intelligence level has been at the forefront of the discussion around him since arriving to college at Ole Miss as a freshman. What does a quarterback with an intelligence level like that bring to the table to your offense? And more importantly, how does it help him bridge the gap as a transfer?
Yeah, I think anytime you have an intelligence factor that you can make same-as comparisons, it helps you retain information quickly. I think he does have a photographic memory, which is usually a high sense of intelligence. I think part of that intelligence gets him in trouble a little bit because he thinks he can, he's met his match as far as an intelligence. And so, there's some things that he can't get away with that maybe he got away with before. But I think that's good. They're challenging each other is a way to grow. And so I'm very excited. I think the best thing about Austin is his communication skills. He can communicate at a high level about what he's seeing, what he understands, how routes are similar to what he's done in the past that he really liked. And that's accelerated the growth between Coach Lindsey, Coach Riley, and what we're doing. I think that the thing that's really been cool to watch on our offensive side of the ball is we've got a lot of flexibility in scheme. And now it's about, okay, we can take this concept and this concept and this concept and marry it to what Austin really likes. And I think that's what great coaches do.
Okay, we'll stay in the center aisle, just over to our right-hand side. Coach, 4 rows.
Coach Brian Shapiro, Columbia, Missourian. Last year, you renewed the rivalry with Kansas, and this year you play them again in week 2. And the fans in Columbia were really embracing that game last season. But after this year, it's not on the schedule again until about 2031 for another home-and-home. Do you foresee any possibility of that becoming an annual game, especially considering other teams in the conference play out-of-conference rivalry games?
Yeah, it probably depends if the Cruz Cantwell bill gets passed and they make us play regional rivalries. Nobody laughed at that. Too much nuance in that joke. scheduling is such a unique challenge and deal. I mean, the games in 2030 were scheduled before I even got to Mizzou, so there's not really a way to get out of them. I know we're playing the Illinois game next year, so that's a regional rivalry. It takes two to tango. We want to play the game. They got to want to play the game too. I think they do want to. It's just a matter of making it work for both sides. I think there was maybe a window and maybe a 28 or 29, but it just didn't work out. So we'll renew the game as quickly as we can. I know it's good for us. It's good for college football. Yeah.
Coach, we'll take one final question in the section in front of me over on the left-hand side.
Drew DeArmond, WZZN Radio, Huntsville, Alabama coach. As you were building your staff for this year, I know you said something to prove. What was your rationale in hiring Chip Lindsey, and what do you think he brings to your staff offensively?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Obviously, I think Chip does have something to prove. I think Chip's been a really good football coach for a long time, but it hasn't ended the way he wants to in his last couple of jobs. And so now he's got an opportunity to really come into a really difficult league. When he was at his best, at the high mark of his career, he was the offensive coordinator at Auburn and doing really great things there, coaching football and coaching for us, or coaching in this league. So I think he's got something to prove, and for me, that's always the right kind of guy to hire. Outside of that, Coach Lindsey's been an excellent football coach. He's got great relationship skills and relationship building. He's got an understanding of holding a standard, being a head football coach. And he's got a great track record of coaching quarterbacks, and he's been in this league before. And when you look at how difficult this league is on coaches, and whether that's head coaches or assistant coaches, people get spit up and chewed out of this league pretty quickly. And so you got to have some thick skin. You got to have the right kind of mentality, and Coach Lindsey does. He has that. And then on top of that, you got to be a great leader. He was going to have to keep 3 of those assistant coaches with Coach Looper, Coach Peeler, and Coach Jones. And then he was going to be able to bring in some guys, and to be able to, not be intimidated to bring in a former Broyles Award winner like Coach Riley, who's got an unbelievable skill set and coaching set, bring in Alex Atkins, who's been a coordinator, and get all of those guys to work together. It takes a special coach to do that. And being able to bring him, along with Coach Papuchis, has been able to add a new element to our staff. It's also challenged me because I couldn't just anticipate that people knew what I was thinking. I had to really go back in and reteach and re-explain some fundamentals and philosophies that we believe in. And when you look at the success we've had with both Coach Baker and Coach Batoon and even Coach Moore, they've all had a unique something to prove mindset when they came to the University of Missouri. And I look forward to Chip and John doing the same thing.
Coach, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, MIZ.
All right.
Pat,
so Drink's been here, Drink has been there, and we will break down what Drink's had to say when we get you back to Tampa.